things like pickpocketing in Bethesda games. Like pickpocketing is just a percentage chance. And that's like super annoying because there's no skill involved. There's no player. It's not interactive, right? It's not. I mean, if there was like a mini game, like there's the lockpicking mini game, for example. The lockpicking mini game is something that you can get good at, right? I mean, partly it's the in-game stats, right? If you're trying to pick a master lock and your lockpicking skill is low, then you're gonna break quite a few lockpicks, just cause it's too hard for anyone to do. But you know, if you are like if you have like a beginner lockpicking skill and you're picking a beginner lock, then player skill does make a difference, right? If you're good at it, if you know what you're doing, you will have more success than somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And that's interactive, right? That makes the gameplay, that makes the player's actions consequential, right? So lockpicking in Bethesda games is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, because it's an actual game. It's an actual thing where you interact with the game and your interactions have consequences. On the other hand, pickpocketing in Bethesda games is not interactive. It's just a percentage chance. You sneak up behind someone, you open the inventory, and it's just like there's just a percentage for whether you can get the thing out of their pocket, and that's it. Nothing else you do really makes any difference. And that's not fun. And so people will save scum. By people I mean me. I will save scum to pickpocketing. Just cause it's like, what else are you supposed to do? You're supposed to just fail and accept it? Whereas I wouldn't save scum the lockpicking unless I was like really desperate for lockpicks or something. Most of the time I would not save scum for lockpicking. Because like if I screw that up, it's me, right? I'm the guy who screwed it up. Whereas with the pickpocketing, you feel like it's just the game not giving it to you. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so I would say, like in Bethesda games, I would say that the lockpicking is good game design and the pickpocketing is bad game design. Right? Just because as I said, with the lockpicking, the player's actions determine the result, whereas with the pickpocketing, the game RNG determines the result. I don't think that's controversial. And going back to like the way the game's designed to be played, the game is designed for you not to save scum, and like you just fail the pickpocketing and you just accept it. But I don't think people do that. I mean, I don't do that. I don't think other people do that either. Because it feels wrong. It feels wrong. It feels like, you know, it should be more interactive, like there should be more things you can do to try to make the pickpocketing work. Or, like, if it's not gonna work, you should have a chance to like quickly escape without being caught, or like, you know, like if it looks like it's not gonna work. Imagine like in the real world, you're trying to lift a wallet from somebody's pocket, right? Like you put your hand in their pocket, and then like if they start to turn towards you, it's like, and they're like, what's going on? Then you immediately pull your hand out and you pretend nothing's happening. You don't wait until they like grab you before you stop. Like if it looks like they notice, you would stop immediately, and you would have a chance to get away with it because maybe they didn't notice your hand was there. Like maybe they felt something, but they didn't know what it was, and like you just like leave before they figure out what's going on. Right, so I mean, like stealing things in the real world is more interactive. I'm not saying you should do that. Like, don't steal things in the real world. But if you did steal things in the real world, you would find that it is more interactive than in Bethesda games. Is what I'm saying. Oh, I didn't want to break those. Let me put that back. I want to break. I'm trying to chop this tree down, but it's all tangled up with the other trees. So like there. There. It's kind of weird now, but that's actually right. Well, maybe not these. I mean, the same way that the lockpicking in the game, it's partly interactive. It's not 100% interactive, but it's interactive enough that you you could stop. If you do it and you feel like, okay, this is too hard, you can like stop and you can like keep the lockpick. Like you don't lose and you don't fail right away, and you don't have negative consequences right away. You can make a choice to not continue, or if you make the choice to continue and the lockpick breaks, then that's your choice. Even though you knew, like the game told you, okay, this is hard, you are failing. Maybe it doesn't make sense if you haven't played the lockpicking minigame. Maybe I should describe that first before I go on a big long tangent. Basically, you have a hairpin. You stick the hairpin in the lock. You put the hairpin in a certain angle, and if it's the right angle, you can open the lock. If it's not the right angle, it would damage the lockpick but not break it right away. That's important. So it doesn't break immediately. It gives you a little bit of feedback. Although if you're like not careful, you will break the lockpick if you apply too much force. But there's feedback. It's interactive. And what you can do is, if you start to like bend the lockpick and you're not opening the lock, you can like pull it out and you would keep the lockpick. Like you wouldn't lose anything if you just choose to like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing this, and then you can try again, or like you can like keep trying, and either you succeed and you open the lock, or you try a little too much and you break the lockpick and you lose the lockpick. Right. So it's a calculated gamble on the part of the player. Actually pretty good game design. And what I'm saying is that pickpocketing really should be like that as well. Like you should like start pickpocketing and the game will give you some feedback, like are you succeeding or are you failing? Like it should give you an indication that what's gonna happen next is either favorable or unfavorable. If it's favorable, then you just like keep going and you succeed. And then if you're failing, then you should have the option to stop and not get caught, or like try a slightly different approach and then maybe get caught, maybe not get caught, or you just like keep doing it because you're dumb and you just get caught because you're not responding to what the game is telling you about the fact that you're failing. Basically design it like the lockpicking minigame. That would be much better, in my opinion. Because like you'd be making decisions, and the decisions would matter, and like your skill would matter, and your decision making would matter. But anyway, back to my original point is, even though the lockpicking is bad, players will just save scum through it. And so they would technically, I mean, the pickpocketing, yeah. I mean, they wouldn't pickpocket the way the game designers intend for them to pickpocket, but they will pickpocket. They just like save scum, just save the game, try it. If it doesn't work, they load the game, and there's no consequences. And so through the save scumming, they turned the bad game mechanic into what the good game mechanic would be if it was good in the first place. As in, there's feedback. The feedback and there'll be a chance to try again. Those being loading the save game is trying again. The feedback is success and failing, success or failure, and trying again is just loading the save game. So the save scumming turns a bad game mechanic into a good game mechanic. And so the joke about Todd Howard saying it just works. The thing is, it doesn't just work. It works because the player has the option to make it work through save scumming. And also other things like modding and using the console. Like if a quest breaks, which it often does in Bethesda games, you can use the console to fix it. Or like if a quest doesn't work, somebody's gonna make a mod to fix the quest. Right? Mods and the console, like save scumming, allows players to turn a bad game into a good game by fixing the problems DIY, right? They do it themselves. And that's the reason Bethesda games work. Not because they work, but because the players fix them. Through the way they play, through mods and the console and whatnot. Which is also why Fallout 76 failed. Because Fallout 76 is a multiplayer game. They had to remove the console, they had to remove mods, because otherwise it'll be completely broken, right? How can you have like some players have mods and some players don't have mods? Like, it doesn't work like that. So when they took out no save scumming, right? Because I mean, how can you save scum in a multiplayer game? So they took out save scumming, they took out the console, they took out mods, and then it turned out that Bethesda games are awful without those things. That's a real shame, because if they didn't take out those things, like if Fallout 76 was a single player game, it would be like a really good Bethesda game. Like, the world design is great, the replayability is great, like the end game is true. There's truly an end game where like you're happy to keep playing even after you finish the main story, which is not the case in all the others. Really. Like, the world is huge. Like, the scale of it, and the detail, and the environmental story, like all of that is amazing in Fallout 76. Like, the world design is really good. Like, there's so much stuff for you to just like wander around and explore. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's put that there. And the only problem with the game is that it's a Bethesda game where you can't save scum. And when you take save scumming out of Bethesda games, They are like awful. I think they can, like, I don't know, I haven't played it recently. I mean, I played it a while ago. I played it, I think, fairly close to launch, or did I? Maybe I didn't fairly close. I played it a while ago. I mean, I didn't. I finished the main story. Didn't really like having to interact with other people, so I didn't continue in the end game. I mean, I wouldn't have loved to have continued to explore the world and everything, but just couldn't put up with the other people in my Bethesda game. Couldn't put up with the multiplayer part. I mean, I could even like put up with the no save scum, no console, no mods. But the other people, man. It's not that they were bad. It's just I feel like they were invading my privacy. I mean, most of them were just perfectly fine people. Like they were kind of, you know, they weren't saints, but they were just like normal people. But I didn't really want other people in my Bethesda game because it's not. The game is like, it's not really designed for interaction. Like, it allows interaction, but it's not designed for interaction, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's super awkward. It's like there's really no reason for you to be interacting with each other in terms of gameplay. And when you like meet someone else, it's like, why are you here? like you would rather them not be there, because all the gameplay is really designed for single player, because it's a Bethesda game. And they don't really do multiplayer, and so like they designed the game so that it's really a single player game where multiplayer is possible. But because it's a single player game where multiplayer is possible, it's a single player game. Like you don't feel like you should be in multiplayer unless you choose to. Does that make sense? What's another game like that? How do I explain this? Do that, it's kind of weird sticking out like that. I keep drifting off topic too. What was I saying? Okay, let's move away from Bethesda games, because there are other things that I'm drifting off to. Games that don't work without save scumming. Oh, I guess, well, okay, this is complicated. So, when they release classic games on like newer consoles sometimes, and I'm thinking about like Mega Man or like old Mario games. When they like release old Mega Man games and old Mario games on more recent consoles, a lot of the time I've noticed they would, like in the emulator, because they basically use an emulator to emulate the old consoles on a newer system. They would put save states in the new emulators. Save states! So if you played like old Mario, there's no save states. Like you start the game, you have 3 lives. You can gain lives and you can lose lives. And if you lose, you lose. And if you lose, you have to start again. Were they continuous? I don't remember if they were continuous. If they were continuous, I think you have to start at the beginning of the current world or something. But like you go world 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4, and then 2 2 2 1 2 2 2 3 2 4, and so on. And like if you lose all your lives, you start again from the beginning, I think, if I remember right. And that's a real pain in the ass.